Digital. It's myself and Stanley, and I'm with Jordan Munton today. Morning, Jordan. I hope you're well.
Morning.
Morning. So Jordan's just come back from Brighton SEO, where he presented this great presentation to probably a couple of hundred people. So he's going to share his thoughts today. The talk is on using Zapier to automate and direct meta lead form data. So this is basically using lead generation in Facebook ads, which he's going to explain in a lot of detail. So before we get going then, just a bit of housekeeping. So I should hopefully be able to answer some of your questions in the chat during the presentation. You will get the videos later on, which we will share with you. And you should be able to go and grab the handouts. If you have any problem with the handouts, if you refresh your browser and come back in, you should be able to get them. In the meantime, what we'll do is we'll do the polls. I've got 2 polls today. So I'll start with the polls and then we'll pass back over to Jordan to get going. So the first poll is, can you see it, Jordan? Did it appear on the screen as the poll appeared?
Yep, I can see it.
Yep. So what do you know about the use of paid social and lead generation ads? So never heard of them. This is all new to me. I understand what it is, but I'm not currently using them. I'm using paid social ads, but not lead generation. I am or have previously used lead generation ads in paid socials. So it's quite difficult to see because the colors are a bit strange. We've got a bit of a mix there. About 60% understand what it is, but don't currently use it. Then you've got about 20% that have used them in the past. And then, the figures are moving around a bit. There are about a quarter of the people that don't know what they are at all. So I think having a few slides on that at the beginning was a good move. So that's really good.
I've not got too many, so I don't have a promise. But there's also a link, isn't there, that you can probably put in the chat for I've done a blog post on setting up lead ads as well.
Okay, we'll get that sorted in a minute. Excellent. Okay, so let me go back to the queue. It's ended up with about 50% understanding what they are, and then about 25% not knowing, and the rest between the others two. So that'll give you an idea of what the guys know. So let's try the next one, which is about Zapier. So do you know what Zapier is and how it helps with connecting data automation? So the first one is I've never heard of it. I've heard of Zapier but not used it. I've used Zapier for other things. I've used Zapier for connecting lead data, which we're not expecting too many people to do, because otherwise you probably wouldn't bother to be here, because you know what it is all about. So as I sort of suspected, at the moment, about half the people, maybe more than half, have not heard of Zapier. And then another quarter have heard of it but not used it. But we've only got about 10% of the people that have actually used Zapier at all. So that gives you an idea of what everybody is doing. So thank you for that, everybody, for helping with that. So if you just want to close your poll down and pass over to Jordan, I'm going to disappear. I'll see you. How long is your presentation today?
It's not going to be the full hour, I don't think. So there'll be some questions at the end.
Okay, all right. Well, if you give me a warning when you get a bit nearer the end, I will reappear. So see you later. Good luck.
Cheers. Cool. Hello, everyone. So yeah, as Anne says, today I'm going to run through using Zapier to automate and direct meta lead form data. So I have got a couple of slides to do with Facebook and Zapier, but most of it's sort of a practical guide showing you through Zapier, showing you how to use Zapier to set up that automation. So it should be helpful for most of you. So let me just, it's not clicking, let me click. Okay. So firstly, I'll go through a quick intro of myself and Annika. I'll, as I say, talk about meta lead ads as a sort of an overview, same with Zapier, and then actually get into the meat of it and show you how to set up the triggers and the actions. So yeah, I'm Jordan. I've been working at Annika for around 4.5 years. I'm a senior paid media account manager, so a very long title. I specialize mostly in Google ads, Bing ads, and sort of Facebook ads. So I'll be taking you through the sort of Facebook or the Meta ads today. So for you regulars, you've probably seen this slide a million times, but this is a couple of stats about Annika. So we were established in 2007, about 23 staff, 40 plus clients and 7 services. Here's the team. I've not got a photo for some reason, but you can see my face. So, here we are. But that's the whole Annika team. And then we've worked with some of these clients in the past. Again, most of you have probably seen these slides before, so I won't linger on them too long. And then here are some channels we do. So say I tend to do the paid media side, but I've also got sort of the SEO team, the PR team, technical team, etc. So we've got tons of teams, which really helps doing sort of that full service agency type thing. So again, here's some channels. Again, I'm not going to go through massive details. Here's some awards we've won. Every time I see this slide, I'm gutted they don't use the slide of Ed with the awards on his back, so he looks like a dinosaur. So we've gone a bit more professional here, but we've won multiple awards, which is all good. So Meta lead ads overview. So for people who have never used it before and might have forgotten what it is, Meta lead forms are forms that keep users on the platform. So you'll see an ad and it might say something like, the call to action might say, fill in this form, and you click on the form and it will come up with sort of a form on your phone straight away. So for anyone who's joined our digital marketing course, you would have come through a Meta lead form. That's how we tend to market to get you people into our course. So you would have definitely seen this from the get-go. And you tend to be met, when you open up the form, you tend to be met with like a welcome message, and then you'll click through and it might ask you some questions that helps the advertiser to sort of determine if the service is right for you or not, etc. But the really good thing of keeping them on the platform is that Meta tends to prefer this as well. Although not confirmed, you do see the performance from sort of lead forms be better than, for example, sending someone to a page to your website to fill in a form. So I think, like all social media platforms these days, they're trying to keep the users on their platform as long as possible. So I do think there's some bias there for Facebook. Parts of the form are pre-populated. So again, if anyone's ever filled in one of these before or clicked on it, you might see that it has sort of your date of birth, your first name, your last name, maybe your email address linked to your Facebook account or Instagram account. All of them data points can be pre-populated. And effectively what you're doing here is making it as simple as possible for the user to submit that form. You don't want there to be that many sort of points where the user says, well, I'll come back to this later. And that's the same with your questions. You don't want to ask a million questions. You want it to be quite a simple form, get the information you need, but don't start asking for stuff like, national insurance number and things like that, or really in detailed information that the user has to go away and find. The other really good element of, because Meta lead forms are on the platform, you don't need any website tracking. You can send users to your website after they've filled in the form, but you're not relying on the tracking that user and identifying when they submit a lead or not. And since all the iOS 14 updates and people being able to opt out of sort of cookies a lot more easier, Facebook has really struggled with Facebook tracking. They have done some workarounds, and you can use things like CAPI now, so like a conversion API to sort of improve the tracking, but it's still not great. Whereas because lead forms are on the platform, they don't require any tracking, and you can, you get all the if you get 10 conversions, you get 10 conversions tracked. Whereas if you're sending them to a website, you might get 10 lead forms, but Facebook might only track 5. So it's really good in that instance as well. You can see what's happening and help Facebook optimize towards that. And again, for anyone who has used this before, you'll be aware of this, but the lead form data, when someone submits an on-platform lead, the lead form data then gets stored in the ad manager or the business suite, and you have to then go into the ad account and download that data. So all sounds pretty good so far for Meta lead ads, and you should definitely be using them. However, there is one downside, and I sort of touched on it slightly there, is you have to download that data manually. So you have to go into Ads Manager, or you have to go into Business Suite. You have to go down to sort of the ad level and download the leads. Sometimes, again, Facebook keeps changing the way you can download it, but sometimes you can sort of do a bulk download. But again, it's a bit messy. When you download, you might be doing it daily or every couple of days. When you download it, you end up sort of it can get really messy. So again, some of the problems, say if you're constantly downloading leads, it could be every couple of days. It's really time consuming to go into, if you go down to the ad level, so you're logging into Facebook, you're going down to your ad level, you're downloading your leads, then you're clicking into another ad, downloading the leads from that ad. It becomes quite time consuming. It does have some potential GDPR issues. Again, you're downloading a lot of data from Facebook, and it gets downloaded as like an Excel sheet. So in that, you'll have first names, last names, you'll have phone numbers, you'll have email addresses, you have all of this sort of like personal data, and that's just on your sort of work computer, and you don't really want it there. If someone managed to get into your computer, or you've got a virus or whatever, they sort of took the data from your computer, or in another instance, you might be downloading the data for someone else. And so you might download the Excel sheet, and then you might send it via email to the sales team. Again, that email address could be compromised, and that sheet could be downloaded, and you could send passwords and things like that. But if you're sending passwords via email as well, it becomes this sort of GDPR issue that you don't really want to expose yourself to. So it has to be, that has to be considered. And even things like having the Excel sheet on your computer and deleting it when it's going to be in your sort of recycle bin. So you have to go in there and delete it. And I'm not a computer expert, but if someone wants to find that data, they could probably still find it somewhere in the back end. So it's some degree not worth it. Again, because you're manually doing all this, and you're manually, reformatting the data. Again, the data that comes through from Facebook, the phone number shows a little bit weird, so you might want to reformat it for it to be sort of more user friendly. There's a couple of other data elements in there that you reformat or change or tweak or whatever it may be, and you could easily, put a phone number against a different person by accident, or delete certain leads out of there. And then, you think you've sent all the leads to the sales team, but actually you deleted 5 of them when you were reformatting it. So there's a lot of sort of human error that can come into it when you start, handling this data more and more. And as I sort of touched on as well, giving access to the right people isn't always straightforward. So if you're the marketing person and you've got access to the Facebook accounts, but your sales team might not have them, or sometimes depend on the person. It's always hard they always seem to have an issue getting into the Facebook account, and they say, right, well, just send it me instead. And again, it's adding another person into that mix of someone has to download it and then give it to someone else, and it just isn't in the grand scheme of things the best way to do it. Multiple people might want that lead form data, and giving access to all of them might not be possible. And then you've got to take into account as well as you as the marketer might actually, you might be watching these webinars and researching it, and you might know how to access Facebook Ads Manager or Business Suite and download the data and all the rest of it. But will your sales team know how to do it? Will they want to do it? All them things as well. So there is several issues with sort of manually downloading the data. And this is where Zapier comes into action. So effectively, what Zapier is, it's an automation tool. So Zapier has access to over 6,000 apps. So think MailChimp, Salesforce, HubSpot, Facebook, all these different apps. So if you're wanting to move your lead form data to our CRM system through Zapier, the likelihood of Zapier having that connection already there is probably high, especially if you're using one of the mainstream sort of CRM systems. So obviously there's other automation tools out there. I started using Zapier, I love Zapier, and didn't look elsewhere. But I've found, because it has access to so many different apps, that it tends to do everything I need it to do. So I've not looked elsewhere. As I say, it can automate repetitive tasks. So in our instance, it's very repetitive to go in daily and manually download data, remove the duplicates out of the data, because say if you're downloading yesterday's results and you download today, you might also download yesterday, because after you did the download yesterday, there might have been extra leads come through at 9 o'clock at night. So then you have to go through and say, right, where do I cut it off and remove them duplicates, etc., etc. So there's a lot of repetitive tasks with doing this manually, and again, repetition can sometimes, that's where that human error can come from, because you become so numb to it, you sort of making mistakes or not realizing you're making mistakes. It avoids coding or relying on developers. I never like to rely on developers sort of to build integrations. Sort of Zapier is very much like a plug and play. It effectively does it for you. You don't need to rely on anyone else, which is always helpful. And as I say, the main point of why I like to use Zapier or other automation tools for this type of job is it reduces that data handling. I'm not messing around with it. All effectively I'm doing is checking that, they call them zaps, and I'll show you that in a bit. But effectively checking the zaps aren't broken, and that is actually, the automation is actually continuing, is effectively what your job role becomes. And again, it improves response time. So I'll show you some examples later on, but imagine, you've got loads of other things to do. You might manage to download the data once a day, or you might do it every 3 days or whatever it may be. That's quite a slow response time. Whereas with Zapier, you can do it automatically. So someone sends in a lead, within a minute, that's, depending on how you set up your Zap, that's in the salesperson's inbox, in there, or it's in the CRM system. So the sales team see it in there and they can straight away call up that lead or send them further information or whatever it may be. It can happen instantly. It reduces that sort of bottleneck of having someone download that data, once a day or whatever it may be. It's very time efficient. So again, for most of you who haven't really used Zapier, very basic slide here. But what effectively happens is someone submits a lead form on Meta, on Facebook or Instagram. So again, for anyone who's on our digital marketing course, you would have definitely done this. That then triggers they call it a zap. So it's effectively a trigger. So triggering an action in Zapier. Sorry, I messed that up completely. So they trigger a zap in Zapier, and there is always an action connected to a zap. So the action connected to that zap, which has been triggered by someone submitting a lead form, is then fired. So this could be things like sending a WhatsApp message to your sales team. It could be sending an email to your sales team with the lead form data on there, so they can go and call the person straight away. Might be send it to a CRM system. It might be, there's loads of different examples, and I've got several in this slide deck for you. But very simply, that's effectively how it works. It might make more sense in a minute as well. So, so what we're doing here, so we're setting up a meta trigger, and you can set up loads of triggers. Effectively, what we're doing here is, if you log into Zapier, you'll get presented with a page like this, and in the top left-hand corner, you'll see a create button, and then you'll see zaps. So you obviously click there. This will then open up a page looking like this, which if you're not used to it, it might look a little bit like, oh, I don't know what to do here. But there's 2 steps here. So one is setting up the trigger. So that's an event that starts your Zap. And then the second step is the action. So an event is that performs after it then starts. So we're going to click on the trigger first. Again, Zapier now does offer AI, like every tool seems to offer. If you're starting off with it, I would probably do it manually, just so you get to build your knowledge of it. So then when Zapier starts through AI suggesting things to you, you can quickly spot if it's, right or wrong. So click on the trigger. You will then be presented with a page like this. And this is where, Zapier says on this page, 5,000 plus or more. I looked on their website, now they're saying 6,000. So they must have added some more to it and not updated their website or this part of the website. But effectively, what we're doing in here is you're going to be searching for the trigger. And for us, what we want to be doing is we're wanting the Zap to trigger when someone submits a Facebook lead form. So what we're going to do is we're going to search for Facebook, and you'll be presented with Facebook lead ads. So that's the trigger you're wanting to select. It is a premium trigger, so you do have to have a paid subscription. I don't think it's much. Off the top of my head, I think it might be like $20 or something like that a month, if not less. But the amount of time it saves and things like GDPR, etc., it's well worth it. But you need a paid subscription to access the premium Zaps. So click on that premium Zap. You will then be presented with a page looks a little bit like this. And in quite a lot of the triggers, the event, there's not many to choose from, which makes it really easy. So in this instance, you've only got one action, which is this Zap will trigger when a new lead in Facebook is created. So simple, that's what we definitely want to do. So we click on that, and that's our event set up. And then we click continue. And then what you'll do here is you'll log into your Facebook account that is connected to your ads manager and your Facebook. So for both of these, you need to be admin. I believe there's some limitations of like 7 days you have to be admin for in the business manager and things like that. But yeah, if you're admin in both of them, then you can connect that account, and you'll then start to see, again, if you've posted already, I don't know, I can't see. But hopefully Anna or Gurpreet have posted in the link to the lead form blog that I've done. So if you go through that blog, you'll see how to create a lead form. And when you create that in your Facebook account, and you log in with that your Facebook account, which is connected to that page, it will then show you that lead form in here. So you can see there's tons in here. So I'm just clicking through and using my profile. And this is why you need to be connected as an admin in your business manager account and be connected to the page you're wishing to put the lead form on, etc. Because in here, again, you'll get the option of selecting, in this instance, Annika Digital. And then I can also click into that default any form and select a certain form as well. So very, very simple. It's once you've got the right access set up in Zapier, it's, you just go through and Zapier will give you the information you need. And then you want to be clicking continue, and it will then send you to this test trigger stage. So if you click test trigger, it will then churn out all of this data, which again looks a bit confusing. But effectively what it's doing here is you can then select on that list there, it says lead C, B, A. So you can just select one of them sort of leads. And you can see some of the data on the right-hand side. It's pushing through stuff like the ad name, the ad set ID, creation time, blah, 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 which most of that isn't important. But if you were able to scroll down, you'd see stuff like first name, last name, how they've answered any questions that you've asked, etc. So select any of these leads, it doesn't matter which one, and then continue with that selected record. And that's the trigger bit set up. So very simple to set up the trigger. And then what we're going to do now is I've got some examples of setting up the action. So the first one is WhatsApp automation. So again, anyone anyone who's come through our digital marketing course might have experienced some of what our WhatsApp automation, where the initial message is through Zapier, and then Rachel, Lucy, whoever it may be, then sort of jumps on that WhatsApp and carries on the conversation. But effectively, again, it looks a little bit like that the trigger page, but this is where you're selecting the action. So again, you go in, you type in that top box. So in this instance, we're going to be typing in WhatsApp notifications. Again, it will present you with some options. Again, in this instance, it's only giving us one option, which is to send a message to a WhatsApp user. So again, you can set that up. And then again, you need to, at this point, you'll then connect your WhatsApp account. So it'll just be a phone number that has a WhatsApp account. So it might be a business phone, or it might be a personal phone, whatever it may be. And that's where when a message gets sent through to a user, that's the number they'll see. So select that number. And then again, here you can have some sort of, when you're sending the action, you can do some templated ones. So in this instance, if we click the new lead template, this will present us with what information we need to send through for that template to work. So again, here, when we did that test purchase, or that test action, and it generated all that sort of account ID, ad name, etc., blah blah blah. And I said further down there'd be first name, etc. This is where, when you click into the box, it will sort of bring this drop down menu, and you can search for first name and put that one in, email, etc., and go down. And effectively, what this will do is it will dynamically update these fields. So if lead 1 was Steve, it put Steve as the first name. If lead 2 was Catherine, it would put Catherine as that name. So it dynamically updates it. And you'll be sending some of this information through. And again, what you'll do here is you can then test that step. And when you test that step, you'll then get sent a email. So in this instance, what we're doing here is we're sending a new lead template message to our sales team's phone number, and it will look a little bit like this. So they'll get a message that says, here's the email of the new lead, here's the phone number, here's where it came from, and you might also put some other information in there and use one of the other templates to say what service they're interested in. But again, if this instantly, someone's submitted a lead form, and within minutes, you could either be sending a welcome message to the person who's filled in the lead form, or you could be sending that lead form data to a salesperson. So within minutes, that all happens. And then obviously you would then publish it, and it's ready to go. The second example is email by Zapier. So again, go in the top, search, find email by Zapier. All relatively straightforward. Again, as you start to do more and more of these, it becomes self-explanatory. You sort of start to understand it a little bit more. You start to then be like, oh, maybe I could do this. You might search for a different action and say, oh, I could send stuff to a Google Sheet or whatever it may be. So you can start to mess around with it. But hopefully these examples today will give you some pointers of where to at least start. So again, in terms of email by Zapier, again, it's only giving us one action, which is to send an outbound email. And we're going to be sending it to my email address. And we're going to put the subject as new lead from Facebook. So again, if someone submits a lead form, I will get in my inbox an email titled new lead from Facebook. And therefore, it makes it really easy for me to see, to spot that it's a new lead. And you can sort of CC in multiple people. So it might be, again, your director might want to see all the leads, and your sales team might want to see all the leads, and you might want to see all the leads, because that can be one of the easiest ways of spotting if Zapier is still working or not. If you suddenly go from having 10 emails a day from Zapier to none, you can be like, well, everything else is running. Zapier must have broke. So in the past, I've always used that as a good sort of catching point to see if things are broken or not. But you can add in multiple email addresses. And again, here you can write in that body. So on the left-hand side, I've tried to, there's two there. So on the left-hand side, you can see I've searched in that left-hand side raw full name. And if I then click on that button, you'll see on the right-hand side, it says name, and then it says the full name. So I always put in a couple of these sort of, not column headers, but if I was to not put like stuff like name, email, phone number, etc., you'll just get lists of like the name and then the email, and it just, I wanted to make it a bit more pleasing as an email when it came through to me. So again, you can sort of click and search through and get things like, in this example, we're pushing through the phone number, we're pushing through the company name, we're also pushing through what the service the person's interested in. So that's one of the questions we would have asked them on the lead form, and they've responded with what it is. So again, that can then be sent to the sales team. Again, you can test it, and when you test it, you'll then get a test email sent through. So this is what the sales team would see when they get an email from Zapier. So it would have things like the name, email, phone number, company name, etc. In this instance, because it's a test, it's chucked through stuff as like dummy data. But if this was a real lead, you'd have real names there, real email addresses, etc. So again, just making it easy as well for the person to read this. If you just chuck loads of data at them, the sales team's not going to be happy with it. Whereas if you format it nicely, you might even be nice to the person and say hello, etc. This will just then be automatically sent through to the sales team every time a lead gets submitted on Facebook or Instagram. The next example, so them two have been sort of mainly to do with sending stuff to people. The next example is to do with MailChimp and data formatting. So what we're going to do here is, we're skipping some of the steps here, but what we're going to do here is search for Formatter by Zapier. And what this will do, I've renamed Formatter by Zapier here to date of birth reformat, just so it doesn't confuse you. But effectively here, we've done sort of them similar steps. So we've set up a trigger, and we've set up the action, which is to add or update subscribe to MailChimp. But in the middle, we're going to add this date of birth reformatting. And effectively, why we do this is because MailChimp, we're trying to fill in the birthday column on MailChimp, but MailChimp doesn't like the year in there. It only likes the month and the day. So we're going to be taking the format, which is currently month, day, year from Facebook. That's what Facebook is pushing through. And we're going to change that to month, day. So again, just a very simple bit of automation. Again, if you didn't have Zapier, you'd be doing this, manually. You'd be going in and changing all the date of birth formats to get rid of the year, etc. And it can cause issues there as well. But we're changing it to month, day. And this will make MailChimp very happy. And then as I say at the bottom, what we're doing there is updating or adding a subscriber. So if they're an existing subscriber and they haven't had their birthday in there, if Zapier then does this automation and sees that it's an existing subscriber, it might update the date of birth or any of the other details to make sure it's up to date, really. What you can also do here, and I would advise it, is when you do add or update a subscriber to MailChimp, you want to be tagging these people as they go through. So a very simple tag is Facebook lead form. So again, when I'll show you an example in a second, when you go into MailChimp, you can filter by tags, and you might want to just see the amount of Facebook lead form submissions which have helped to sort of bulk up your email marketing list. You might want to just see them. You can also tag it by, you might have a multiple choice question, and depending on what they answer, you might then send them to a certain remarketing funnel, or you might have MailChimp calls sort of email funnels, but someone might say that they're interested in garden furniture, and you might have a email marketing funnel set up to send like 5 or 6 emails to do with just garden furniture. So again, you can tag these to then filter into sort of any existing email marketing campaigns you've got going on. So what this looks like in MailChimp is if you go into manage contacts and you can filter by tags. Here I've filtered by Facebook lead form, and you can see in this example that over 2,500 lead form submissions have been received into MailChimp. And again, that's the stat that you can go back to your marketing manager or whoever it might be and say, look, we've only got 2,000, we've only got 2,000 people in our email marketing list, and 1,500 of them have come from, Facebook. Therefore, I want more budget to go into Facebook, etc. And you can also see on this example how that birthday column is now populated with the month, day data. If we hadn't done that reformat, that wouldn't have been shown in there. And then the last one, which is sort of bringing some of the ideas from the previous one together. And if you want to jump back on in a minute, I'm nearly done. But effectively what we're doing here is we're combining those of them together. So again, we're starting off with that trigger. So the trigger is someone submitting a lead on Facebook or Instagram. When that trigger is done, it then sets off these sort of actions below. So the first action it's going to set off is a message will be sent to the sales team. We saw that example of what that could look like. So we've sent them a message to say we've got this lead, get in contact with it, etc. We've also, in this instance, we've used the email by Zapier to send a welcome email to the user. So again, you might have this as part of your CRM system, and you might have a welcome email set up to generate as soon as a subscriber is added. But if you haven't, you might use this instance to sort of send a welcome email to that user. Or again, it might be that some people want it via WhatsApp, and some sales team or a certain other sort of stakeholder wants an email sent with that lead form data on there. Again, things like not to from a marketer's point of view, salespeople aren't that great with filling in CRM systems that good. So if we can, we take the initiative off them and say, okay, well, we've sent you the lead, just deal with the lead. We'll add that lead into Salesforce. So once you get a response from that person, once you've rang them up, you can then go into Salesforce and you'll find that lead in there automatically. You don't have to go and set up a new lead. So again, it's making it as easy as possible for the sales team to do their job, but also making it as easy as possible for you to make sure leads are being added in Salesforce, etc. So you can actually then track back and say, we've got sales, etc. So you could send it into HubSpot, you can send it into loads of different CRM systems. But in this example, we'll send it into Salesforce. Again, I showed you the example in terms of the date of birth reformat. There might be other reformatting you do as well, but that could all happen. And then the last one would be to add that email subscriber to your email marketing software. So it might be stuff like SharpString or MailChimp, or there's loads of different other ones. And again, so every time someone submits a lead, you could have these sort of 5 actions firing off the back of it. And if you imagine, this will happen within minutes. If you imagine if you were to do that manually, you would download the data, you'd send a message via WhatsApp to your sales team. You'd then, it even might be templated, but you'd have to send an email to the customer to say welcome. You'd then have to go into Salesforce and manually add that lead in there. You'd then have to, going back to the lead form download, you'd have to reformat that data. You'd then have to go into MailChimp and add that subscriber into there. So that would take a lot of time, whereas Zapier or the other automation tools will be doing that in minutes. And, you saw the previous example, 2,500 email subscribers from lead form data, and that was only over like a 6-month period, I believe. That would be a lot of work for someone to do where they've got other jobs to be doing. And that is the end of this slide deck. Hopefully that's give you some inspiration of how to use Zapier. It's not as scary as it seems. It's very straightforward, and once you get used to it, it becomes easier and easier.
Excellent. Thank you, Jordan. That was really cool. So I think what we'll do is just summarize some of the key points again, because if people haven't used ads before and they're not used Zapier before, it's sometimes these sorts of presentations are a little bit more technical than they're used.
Yeah.
So can you explain some of the options you've got when you're creating a lead form to start with? I know you've got the blog, which we did post earlier on, by the way. What's the sort of fields that you could put in a lead form over in Facebook or LinkedIn, or because obviously other platforms you can do this with? It's not just Meta, is it?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, there's some sort of predetermined ones which Google uses based off your Facebook information. It might be sort of your postal area, it might be your name, email address, date of birth. Very straightforward, but you can also ask questions yourself. So these can be multiple choice, where you ask a question and they can either say yes, no, or sort of not applicable. I always, on my lead forms, always give them the opt out, because I don't want them to say just click one because they have to click one, or they go off. So you always give them an opt out so they can say yes, no, or not applicable. So again, you can see that data on the other side. You can also ask sort of short responses. So you can ask them a question and leave the field blank, so they can just put in whatever information they want. You can even get a little bit smarter with it and sort of hook up an Excel sheet, and they can go through and they can effectively to some degree. Facebook always uses the example of selecting a jumper and then offering, and then it would go down to the next question and you could select what color jumper you want and then what size. They're not that great for lead forms, but you can do them. But yeah, the most used ones are obviously the pre-filled ones in that you can select, and then doing the short questions and the multiple choice questions. Multiple choice is normally the best because it's filtering them into selected audiences a lot easier. Whereas a short answer could be absolutely anything that they're responding with.
Yeah. I mean, we use it a lot. For the people that have previously or currently attending our courses, when we've used lead generation for ourselves, we've used it for things like the county. So we'll put the counties that we're trying to target. So if it was East Midlands, we might put Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire, and then we'll put another. So you can do things like that. So what we're basically saying is there's a lot of flexibility in the lead generation that you collect in the first place. And sometimes there are going to be factors that will help us decide if this is a person we want or we want to exclude. So it can work both ways. So, for example, we added, have you got the right to work? Have you been in the UK for 3 years? Those sorts of things. So let's go on to the first use case, which for me, when we first started using it, was actually just getting those leads into another spreadsheet, or in the example you've used, into Salesforce or HubSpot. So I got distracted at one point with a call, but did you talk about the fact that you can basically link the lead form into Sheets, for example?
Yeah, you can link them into Google Sheets. I mean, I've heard whispered it's not the greatest because Google Sheets aren't the most secure, are they, for holding data really? So you don't really want to be chucking them into Google Sheets. But yeah, you can put them into Google Sheets. You can basically put them wherever you want them to put, but it comes down to how will it best work for your company. It's a bit like the questions. Just because you can ask all the questions, would you ask them on a normal lead form on your website? Yeah. It's asking enough questions that you get the data you need, and then also when you're using the automation, using it in the correct way so it's going to the right places and not just using it because you can.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the reason why I mentioned Sheets was because quite a few people, when they first start in marketing, they don't have access to HubSpot or Pipedrive or Salesforce. Yeah. So, and to be honest, the other thing is it's really difficult to find where in Facebook, particularly, where you download the leads. You know, it's sort of quite badly hidden, isn't it? So having them automatically transferred over. What was interesting for me today, which I wasn't aware of, was I was already aware of the email functionality directly from Zapier, because the other thing you want to do as soon as somebody fills in the form is to email the person that's filled it in to say thank you for filling it in and acknowledging it, what's going to happen next. But I didn't actually realize there was a sort of a native inbuilt WhatsApp message creator, because the work that myself and presentation that Rachel did at Brighton is all about using a different program, but it appears that they've got some additional functionality that to do with WhatsApp. So I was interested to know a little bit about that, and what was your justification, or what would be a justification for using WhatsApp over an email in as well as an email, for example?
Yeah, I've not explored that one in massive amounts of detail. I think that Zap that I used was purely to send it to a designated phone number. So it might be a WhatsApp account that multiple people use, or whatever it might be. Whereas, as you say in your talk, it was to do with Watty and using Watty to help with that automation. Because again, when you in your talk, the Zaps are available in Zapier, but having that Watty in there as well just helps with that automation a bit more. So you can start to introduce several bits of automation to make it even better. But as you say, you could probably get away with just using Zapier and seeing how it works, and then expanding from there once you sort. Because obviously another automation tool is another amount of money, another investment, isn't it? So
yeah, exactly. And the reason why we were using a second automation tool, which is called Watty, and Rachel's done a talk on this, and probably Rachel or I will do another one on this, is that you can create more complicated templates. So if you actually want to send out quite a detailed what you want to do next, then that's better going through the WhatsApp API. But just a simple message, I think, is much easier. And then one of the things that we did present in our talk was the fact that the opening rates were so much better in WhatsApp, sort of 75, 80% compared with 20% in email. So that's another reason why WhatsApp is a really good choice for people. But you need to warn them, don't you, Jordan? Because if you just send them a message and don't tell them, they can block it. So that can be problematic. So
yeah, with this automation, it's not like if someone signs up to a lead form, they tend to expect like an email saying welcome. But you need to be warning them, especially WhatsApp, because it feels a little bit more personal, that they should be expecting a message. And I think that helps the open rate. Anyone who was on a digital marketing course, I think our form says we'll send you a WhatsApp sort of thing. So WhatsApp is good, but again, it's like the ones where you might have a WhatsApp message from, I don't know, Halford saying your tyre fitter will be here in the next 2 hours. Then messages, you're expecting a tyre fitter to come around to do your car. A WhatsApp message, you appreciate that. You wouldn't want Halford sending you, get 20% off cycling gear this April. Like, that would be the wrong message. People would hate it.
Yeah.
And that would then reflect back into WhatsApp, and the integration between Facebook and WhatsApp might, they might just cut you off basically.
You can be blocked if you get a very high, because of course people, when they get a WhatsApp message, they can block you, and if you get a very high level of blocking, Meta, who own WhatsApp, will start to block you. I was also interested in seeing the date of birth clean up, because I'd seen it with telephone numbers to clean up telephone numbers, but I hadn't seen it used with date of birth data. So that was quite interesting that you were able to do that as well. The other thing that I thought was really useful was the way that you'd integrate it with MailChimp. But I do think there's a general lack of understanding that Zapier can literally link any two pieces of software. So, for example, if you wanted to link, I don't know, let me think of an example. If you've got somebody that signs up to a newsletter in MailChimp, and then you need to add it into HubSpot, you could do that as well. You know what I mean? So Zapier is much, much more flexible than you've implied within your talk, because you've just used one sort of example. But you can literally pretty much link up any piece of software, can't you?
Yeah. I mean, I kept it relatively simple, but you can set, as I say, 6,000 apps I don't think there's any particular order of if you had one as a trigger or one as an action. Obviously, you get different options in there, but the world's your oyster in terms of what you can use it for. But I obviously spotted an issue with Facebook and how manual it was, and then you went into Zapier. And then, as I say, start off small. When we started doing it, I was doing it for a logistics company who were hiring people, and I was getting like 50 forms a day coming through. So we used automation there, and it's the same with Annika. We started off small and simple, and then we've expanded into adding in additional questions and adding in extra automation, everything like that. So you can start off relatively small, very small investment cost, and then as it becomes more and more useful to your business, you can,
Yeah, absolutely. Because sometimes we have to pay for extra zaps or something. So just to give the context of how we use it for Annika's training course, if we needed to recruit 100 people, we would get over 1,000 Facebook forms. So, and really those forms don't give us the information we need. So we need to encourage them to go off and fill a Google form. And we only get about 1 in 4 fill in the Google form. So you can imagine there's huge amounts of chasing and getting people to do different things. So that's why we've ended up going down this automation path. I think that's been really helpful, and you've got some nice love in the chat. So before we go any further, what I'll do is I'll just ask people to give you a bit of a review. I'm going to give you 2 choices, everybody. First of all, we'll put the Google review up. The Google review requires you to be logged in, so it does take a little bit longer, but we've only got about 60 Google reviews. So it would be great if you could do that one as the first choice. But if you're not a great Google review user, then please review us on reviews.io, which I think, I definitely need to change this graphic because it's well over 400 now. So please go and give Jordan your appreciation over in one of the review platforms. I'm not sure if Gurpreet's still online, but if you could turn your mic on, Gurpreet. Do you know what the webinar is for next week?
I do, yes. It's with Amy and Ebony, and they're going to be covering PR, what happens behind the scenes. It's quite an exciting one.
Brilliant. Well, thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon. The only other thing I can tell you is there's some other exciting things that we're doing, particularly if you're based in Leicestershire. We're going to be launching working with the LCB depot on a monthly actual in-person networking event, which is about a month away. So if you're a regular, we'll post about that next time we talk to you. But otherwise, we'll speak to you soon. Have a great weekend. Bye.